September 11, 2014, on file with the board for a variance from the terms of Section 6B3 of Chapter 10 of the general bylaws of the town, so as to build a 6-foot by 35.5 foot by 1-story porch addition to the front of the existing single-family residence located at 86 Warren Avenue in Milton, which is located in a residential C district. The addition is set back 13.8 feet from the front property line rather than the 20 feet required under Section 6B3. All of that is set forth in the application that was submitted to the board on September 11th. I have in front of me a copy of the application, a copy of a letter to Mr. McCormick from Mr. Prondak indicating that he had denied the proposal to construct the addition, the porch, a plot plan of the property on Warren Avenue, a list of the abutters, to the property, along with a abutters report and several other addresses. That, I believe, is the extent of the file that we have in front of us today. I see that the applicants are here along with their attorney. Welcome to the Board of Appeals. How can we help?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm Attorney Bob Sheffield. I'm pleased to represent Tom and Michelle McCormick. They are in the process of enlarging their house. So far, they have gone up. They need to, in order to have a porch, they need a variance from the 20-foot setback. Unfortunately, when this house was constructed 104 years ago, we didn't have a 20-foot setback. So that at that time, the house was built in 1910, and this was the home that Michelle grew up in, and they purchased it from her father. And now they are enlarging it so as to be able to serve their family needs. In order to have any front porch at all, it is necessary to get a variance from the 20-foot lot line, front setback. They've spoken to all the neighbors regarding this, and all the neighbors are supportive and are very happy to see the portion of the new addition, which is already up, and hopeful that the McCormicks will be able to have a front porch. I have the plans here if you need to look at them in detail. And I would say that this is an unusual lot insofar as back in the year 1910, this was the only homeowner that purchased a double lot, making the frontage 120 feet rather than the 60 feet, which is normal and standard in the area. They were required in the construction when they went in and put in a second floor. They were required to keep it from protruding closer to here to cover the original building because of the side lot setback. And they were prohibited from putting in any porch at the time of that construction without the delay that would be necessary to go to the Board of Appeals and get the approval for the full plan, which hopefully will be approved tonight, which is just the porch.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Anything you want to add to that excellent presentation?
No, that pretty much does it.
Questions from the members of the board?
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman.
No.
And their two children are very hopeful that they'll be able to play in the front porch.
So I have a question. So this plot plan that you submitted shows a small walkout set of stairs. Are those stairs protruding from this front?
Those stairs were, in fact, out approximately 4 feet. At the time, there wasn't a measurement taken. However, they were, again, about 4 feet from the existing foundation, which is still in place. So the foundation hasn't moved to,
So this is an existing rendering.
that is existing, yes, that's correct.
So right now, you have, your building is 19.8 feet from the front property line, and it has a small set of stairs.
Yes.
That's right.
And you're going to change that with maybe a more of like a country kind of porch?
Farmer's porch.
Yeah.
Well, it's to hide the 4-inch variance, the 4-inch back.
The
So
setback.
we had to set the second floor 4 inches back. So the second floor is 4 inches back from the front of the house. This
4
first
inches
floor.
back.
In order that you have the front setback for the second floor.
So that's why
Oh,
that
so-
would hide it.
Yeah.
So what, okay, so what you said was the addition's already been done.
Yes, it has.
And when was that done?
Oh, it's been done this summer and it's
It's still
continuing.
under.
But it doesn't look good because it has a 4-inch setback, a reverse
Right.
setback. It's the opposite of what you might
Right.
ordinarily see. The
Exactly.
overhang is on the
The
second
reason we
floor.
did that was just to expedite the building process. Well, we could do it in good weather, you know.
Okay, so now you want to cover that over with this porch, which is universally going to extend into the, well, it's going to exacerbate the current nonconformity.
By about a foot and a half.
By about 18 inches.
Right now it's 4 inches, and now it'll be a little bit more.
Correct.
But this doesn't show
That's correct.
it. So can we have these? Did you bring these for us?
brought those, yeah.
You brought these, this is your only set?
No, I have.
Can we have, at least, can we, well, this is my point.
No, you can have it.
It would be helpful for the board to have what's actually being built in the file, and the only plan that's in the file is this, but this is really showing the current condition.
That's correct.
Okay,
No, you can have
Got
that entire set.
And I have I have kind of an overlay that kind of gives a downward look on, I think, the second page there, which will show where the stairs would be existing and where they would be if this were to go through.
yeah, but the stairs are gonna be gone.
The stairs will be gone, yeah.
Are they there now?
Right now, we just have temporary stairs leading from the door.
I see,
We're still under construction.
yeah. And the setback from the edge of the porch to the property is, it actually doesn't show here, but, you know, look, maybe it's 16 feet, something like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And you're representing to us that it's gonna look like this when it's done?
Yes.
That is correct.
And will the shingles be consistent with the roof shingles?
They will, yeah. It's actually going to be a hip roof, so the shingles will
Are
match.
we gonna put a new roof on the building too?
Only a new roof on the, there's a new roof that's already on the
The
addition.
building?
The porch itself would have a matching hip roof.
Or you call that a hip roof?
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's two hip roofs now.
I suppose. I suppose
It's just a
hip
roof.
Yeah. It's a roof.
Yeah, okay. And
Do you want to see a picture of it before and after?
I think it'd be nice. Yeah, that would be great if you have it.
I do,
He does.
Um,
It might help.
And will the, what will the stairs be made out of?
Stairs will be AZEK PVC trim with Trex composite decking.
And what will the lattice be made out of?
Lattice will be 1x3 PVC vertical trim as well.
White?
White.
And will the whole house appear to be all uniform, as if the
Yep.
addition was never really done?
Yes. It will appear as one uniform house.
And when would this work be done?
We would hope to have, the holes dug before the ground freezes up. So we'd really like to expedite it. So we'd probably, I would say, all goes well, we could have it done mid-November.
Are you the contractor?
I am not, no, I'm the homeowner.
I know that.
No. Sometimes I feel like the contractor, but no, I am only the homeowner.
Like the hip roof going and the PVC.
Yeah, I know. I've learned some of the
He watches this
terminology.
old house a lot.
Too much, matter of fact.
Okay,
So I can I can show you a picture of.
Good questions. I get a better picture.
This is probably the closest I have of what back here as of now. I don't have anything with the siding on yet.
So that's what the house looks like
That's
now?
what the house looks like now. Well, you
No,
can
we have
imagine it with
shingles.
the roof and siding, but that's how it looks now, as far as the structure, the overall.
We
idea.
could send a picture of that to Mary.
Possibly. I can possibly find something a little.
I think that's okay. I think the
Okay.
board has a,
Gives you an idea.
yeah, I think it would be helpful to have a photo in the
Okay.
file. Let me ask you, Nick, do you have any other questions? And Steve, do you have any questions? Can I ask if anyone in the audience has any would like to testify in opposition to this application?
We're here for it. We're here for it.
I'll get to you. I'll get to you. Just be
And I
patient.
have to look at it, I'm 2 doors
Just be
away.
patient.
And it's gonna be so much nicer with the.
We have a process, and we're going to follow it. Now it's your turn. Can I ask if anybody is here that would like to support the application? Yes, would you like to be recognized?
Tricia Valentino, I live at 70 Warren Ave. I've known
Welcome.
the McFadden's since they moved in. And their mother passed away, but she was our friend, and I support it. I've been here before.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Does anybody else like to support the application? Yes.
Ditto. Except I live at 94, there's a house.
94 Warren Avenue.
94 Warren Ave.
And your name is?
Helen Lucy,
Helen.
and.
Welcome.
Thank you. I worked at Town Hall for a while. And,
How did you like it?
I loved it, but then they decided to get rid of the switchboard, and I was out.
Let's just say the Board of Appeals had nothing to do with that.
No,
Okay.
I even offered to John Cronin if I could pay him to keep my job.
I think that's illegal, actually. I think we're going to strike that from the record, Helen.
But,
Just note that Mr. Cronin denied that request.
No,
Yeah, he's still alive, you know.
Like that, we know. Yeah, those were the old days, but it was fun. But,
Back to the application.
back to the application.
What do you think of it?
The house is absolutely beautiful, but this is gonna make it so, I don't know how to explain it, warmer, homey, and for the little bit of conflict here, this is just, these kids have worked so hard to have this happen. And I would the whole neighborhood, that everyone couldn't be here, but the whole neighborhood is for them. I haven't talked to anybody who was negative about it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your
Okay.
testimony.
I'd just like to add that the moving the house back the 6 feet or so would pose an unbearable and unreasonable problem, and it would create an undue hardship.
Did you, thank you, did you speak to the neighbors on both sides of the property?
I
Yes.
have, yep.
And what is it that they said about the application?
They are entirely for it, no problems whatsoever. They're
They
happy.
could have been, they both couldn't have been here, but they
Yeah.
would have if they could have.
Okay. Does anybody else in the audience want to offer any comments or testimony on the application?
Do you want to play on the porch?
Okay, thank you. Questions from the members of the board? Okay, we're going to close the evidence portion of the hearing and begin the deliberations. The open meeting law requires that we do so in public, and as Mr. Leonard is fond of saying, we're going to do that right here and now. Mr. Lumbaum, do you have anything you'd like to say about this application?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very well presented, very tasteful design. It obviously has merit for a growing family. We've granted this type of relief in the past, and it makes our job easy when you get that support from your abutters and your neighbors. So in the overall, I would tend to vote in favor of the application.
Mr. Grab?
I would also intend to vote in favor of the application for the reasons Steve stated. I think it looks great. I looked at a house on Warren Avenue once to buy, and this one looks really great. So I think it will be an improvement. Certainly, if it will cover up the 4-inch retreat, I don't even know what else to call it, on the second floor, that might be a good reason.
Thank you.
I agree with my colleagues. I think it's well presented and a tasteful addition and something that's well within the range of what this board would typically grant with the kind of support that you have. So I'll ask for a vote. All in favor of granting this variance upon the application of Michelle and Thomas McCormick?
Aye.
Oh, yes. Okay, so you have your variance. Congratulations.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It'll take us a few weeks to get this in order, and there's a short appeal period. And then Mrs. Fitzgerald will help you with the procedure to record it at the Registry of Deeds, et cetera. So good luck with your property.
Thank you.
and,
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you very much, Carl.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bob, good to see you.
Thank you, good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, you want to give him back to him?
Nice to meet you.
Who wants this?
He wants to be a lawyer.
Either way, I'll do it if he doesn't want to do it.
You tell me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Gonna show.
gentlemen.
Okay, it's good talking to you.
Thank you.
I swear to God you did right.
I'll have you known that this room is named after one of our good friends, Carol,
Carol, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
for a long time.
Yeah, that's
And my
nice.
aunt, Josephine McAteer, was the town accountant for 49 years.
Wow.
I'm just in the process, my cousin tied up her estate. She left me her house in Milton.
Oh, wow.
He fought the death tax. I never knew there was such a thing.
Oh,
She
yeah.
had property in Maine and everything, so I'm just in the process of selling it to my next-door neighbor.
Good luck with that.
Daughter,
Good luck with that.
yeah. I don't think she wants to do any changes. There's no room.
Yeah. Death tax. Familiar with that one.
Okay. Is the applicant prepared for the 7:30 hearing?
He's in the men's room, I just took it, he'll be.
You got the selectmen going tonight, huh?
Busy night.
Are you taping us?
Yes.
Oh, you are?
I am.
Oh, boy.
You're not live now.
That little show is going to be on television now?
You know what? It's good. They're gonna love it. They're absolutely gonna love it. It's gonna be good. Spice it up.
Oh, boy. I wish I knew that.
It's fine.
Okay. You ready? All right, we are going to call to order the 7:30 hearing, 11:26 to 11:46 Randolph Avenue. This is a continuation of a hearing that I believe originally began on June 12, was continued to July 23rd, included a site visit at some point, the date for which I don't have in front of me, but then was continued to September 10, and has been further continued to October 21. And so in the intervening period of time between September 10 and October 21, today, the Board of Appeals published an amended and restated special permit from the terms of the zoning bylaw for the purposes of permitting the applicant time to take a look at what the board was considering based upon the testimony that we've heard at the preceding four hearings and the site visit, as well as the input that we've gotten from written testimony from various town members, town citizens. So tonight's hearing, I would like to hear from the applicant, we would like to hear from the applicant on that draft amended and restated special permit. So that's the main purpose of this meeting. I will also say that since then, we received a memo from Mr. Prondak, the building commissioner, making comments and observations about the draft permit, to which I haven't replied out of respect for the open meeting law, but we want to talk about that as well. In addition, we received a communication from Mrs. Martinelli and a butter about a couple of comments on the application, which we'll address tonight, and a question as to whether or not this application was related to the land court's decision in the Coulter case from 2012. And some limitations that were set forth in the Coulter case. I want to address the Coulter case up front, and I'm going to invite my fellow board members, both of whom are attorneys, practicing attorneys in Massachusetts, to comment. But I think the Coulter case is different than this case for the following reason, or for the reasons I'll articulate. Let me just say first that the Coulter case was largely about the validity of a special permit, or a series of special permits that were issued over a long period of time, and ultimately was decided on the basis of the validity of a landscaping business on the property. It's distinguished from, in Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 9, requires or permits that bylaws and ordinances may provide for specific type of uses which shall only be permitted in specific districts upon the issuance of a special permit. Our bylaw permits special permits to be issued as an accessory use. Let me say this. In the district, an accessory use is allowed on the same lot and customary incident to uses permitted by special permit and not detrimental to the residential neighborhood. This hearing, we've had a lot of testimony over the conditions of the neighborhood. And the history of this use, like in the Coulter case, dates from the 1960s. But I do think is distinguished because, for a couple of reasons. One is the special permit has been superseded, the current special permit has been superseded, or superseded some of the prior special permits. Secondly, the types of uses in the Coulter decision are different than the ones in the Sanatellis decision. And thirdly, we're specifically prohibiting a commercial landscaping business from operating on the premises, which is a large part of what the Coulter decision was about. I think the facts and circumstances of each individual case need to be, I would say, rest on their own bottom or be considered individually, and that's what the board does. I will say that there is some language in the Coulter decision that is helpful to the board and instructive to the board, and which the board will be mindful in considering these decisions. But I don't think that and I'd like my board members to comment if they'd like, I don't think it establishes a precedent or provides us with any particular guidance on what to do in this instance, because the facts are different. Indeed, they're very different. But I'd like maybe Steve or Nick to add. I know they both read the case, and I appreciate it being brought to our attention. Steve?
No, I agree with all your comments, Jeff. I wasn't, based on the memo that was sent over from Mrs. Martinelli, I wasn't quite sure, or I just wasn't quite clear as to what she was suggesting, so I took the time to read Coulter. And I sort of came to the same decision. Coulter was an express determination that a landscaping business would not be allowed, and we've specifically done the same thing here. Potentially have laid out language to that effect. And as you said, based on differing facts and circumstances, I don't think that there's anything in Coulter that specifically binds us here. So other than that, I agree forthrightly with everything you've said.
Thanks.
No, I don't think I have anything to add beyond saying I agree with both of your comments just now. I think that we are specifically excluding a commercial landscaping business, and that's as a use on this, the special permit on this property, and I think it's distinguishable on that basis.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask Mrs. Fitzgerald if, other than the comments that we got from Mrs. Martinelli today, the comment we got from Mr. Prondak on September 24th, whether or not there's been any other comments submitted to the
What
board.
Jason submitted.
I haven't seen that. This is mine.
This it?
No.
There was something I put in the beginning of it.
Mr. Sanatellis, you want to come to the table? Oh. Okay, so let me just, yeah, we have seen this. Mr. Sanatellis has issued given a note to Mrs. Fitzgerald, which lays out the mulch delivery schedule that we asked for, and includes a reduced copy of the plan that I think everybody has seen. So, let me continue the hearing by asking Mr. Sanatellis, welcoming Mr. Sanatellis and his attorney to the board, and asking if he has any comments that he wants to share with the board based upon what we've given you. I see that Mr. Prondak has joined us. Mr. Prondak, do you want to join us at the table? Certainly. Thank you. Jason?
Good evening.
Good evening.
We're going to take them one at a time, I think.
Okay.
There are a number of items that we would like at least a brief discussion on, Mr. Chairman, and for what it's worth, I was very much involved with Tom Coulter in the early stages, and that clearly was about a landscaping business and is quite distinct from this. It's probably too early to say whether the case will offer precedent in the future, but for now, it's apples and oranges. There's no comparison.
Thank you.
And what we'd like to do as we proceed is discuss individual. By the way, we're very appreciative of the board's efforts. There's a whole lot of time, a whole lot of effort, even more praiseworthy when we consider that you guys are volunteers. It was a nice piece of work, and we appreciate it. There's a couple of points that we'd like some clarity on, possibly some minimal relief on, but we can discuss those in whatever order you choose.
Well, let's go right in order. If you wouldn't mind, I've got a memo from Mr. Prondak that when you raise an issue, perhaps we could also discuss what Mr. Prondak has raised, and we can deal with the efficient carrying out of the people's business that way. Mr. Barry.
Yeah, on Mr. Prondak's letter, and I have a copy of it here.
Okay, great.
On number one, we have no issue with the restrictions on refrigerator trucks. With one minor exception, it's possible to store a refrigerator truck during that Thanksgiving week. It only involves a total of 2 to 3 days, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of Thanksgiving. And it's possible to store it off-site overnight so as to not bother anybody with the fact that it continues to refrigerate and makes some minimal noise, I suppose. The only problem is during those 2 or 3 days, during the day, during the working day, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to have it off-site because as I say, this is not a night issue, but during the day, you can't be going across town or even across the street for turkeys, and that's what it's all about. So that's only a minor issue with number one. As to the other items of Mr. Prondak's, we had no issue at all.
On the whole memo?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the way we'll do this is we'll take your testimony, we will ask you questions, and then the board will deliberate, okay?
Sure.
So, but I don't want this to be this is not so much of a negotiation as much as I want to just, we're the deliberating body, so.
Right.
Let me ask you, so you're suggesting with respect to Mr. Prondak's addition or concern about the refrigerator trucks, that refrigerator trucks be permitted during Thanksgiving?
Right, during the 3 days of Thanksgiving week, on the premises.
3 days of those?
Of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, leading up to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Just during the business day. I know that truck.
What is that?
Business hours.
Business hours.
What is that? What are those?
8 to 7. 8 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay. Proceed.
Well, that was our point on that. If we could get a concession that during those
Prondak,
hours.
do you have a comment about that?
After 7 PM, where would the refrigerator truck go? Precisely.
We would put it across the street.
Down in the back or up in the front by Newcomb Farms?
Down in the back. This is,
I don't know that we're gonna get into the details of what's going on at Newcomb Farms, right?
Well,
Because we've commented before that this isn't about Newcomb Farms.
right, but
Unless you want it to be, because you're the one who asked us to have this hearing.
the refrigerator truck, when it is on site at Eagle Farms, parked right up against Randolph Avenue. In the past, Jason,
that's not true.
well, let's point on the site.
On Randolph Avenue?
Yeah. It parks in the parking lot, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's on the site, and then to take that across the street to Newcomb Farms and park it right on the, against the sidewalk at Newcomb Farms is essentially not, you're gonna hear those compressors regardless, is my point.
But as long as he has the option, he's already suggested it would be on the back of the property, Joe, not the front. Obviously, that's no guarantees long-term.
We're talking a small, box truck from Ryder that has a small reefer in there that kicks on when the temperatures
Go above
are
30.
warm. It doesn't stay on continuously. The noise is minimal. During the day, shouldn't be much of an issue. At night, we can move it across the street. Behind the building is fine.
I think a solution may be to just simply say, if you were inclined to agree with that, that maybe a certain distance from the Eagle Farm property, maybe 300 feet or something like that would suffice. That way we're not talking about another specific
Yeah,
property.
no, it's a good idea. Okay. Mr. Barry?
As to Mr. Prondak's letter, we have no issue with any of his other points. We're satisfied with the...
Okay, terrific. Thank you. You're gonna stick around, right?
I'm sticking around.
Okay. You done with the selectmen?
For tonight, yes.
Excellent. They come first. Mr. Barry?
Well, back to now, as to the board's recommendations.
Yes.
The main one. As we reviewed them, we had no problems with 1 and 2 at all, and a little bit of concern on 3 chords being somewhat of a severe limitation, but as long as he has the capacity to store across the street, and we can't project the future on that, but for now he does, we really don't have a problem with number 3 either.
Oh, let me say something on that. One of the things, and I know Mrs. Martinelli has raised this in her comments, is trying to draw bright lines between what is large and small.
Right.
And, I'll admit that 3 is it's not too small, not too large. And my thought on that would be that if that doesn't work, the permit, you have the ability to come back to the board and we can talk about it further.
Yeah, it could become an issue, because typically in a season, he'll do 15 or 16 chords, not 3 chords, and it generally gets delivered at once. So as long as he has off-site storage, he's in good shape. Should he not, we have to deal with it in the future.
Fair enough.
If we turn that page over for 4, 5, and 6, there were no issues. We're in agreement.
Okay.
I was a little confused in reading 7 and 8, one which seems to prohibit the use of heavy equipment, and then in 8, recognize the use of heavy equipment. And maybe, I think Jason had less trouble with it than I did. Maybe he can explain where
Well-
we are on that.
Here's what I think it says. It says that you can't move stock,
Right,
but that doesn't mean that you can't use heavy machinery.
okay.
That's the difference between 7 and 8. Now, that's something that's been in your special permit since 2000
That pertains to the property at 1146 Randolph Avenue.
yeah. Why do you ask that?
I ask that because sometimes we do move stock on 1126 Randolph Avenue with a small loader. Like if a person may get 12 shrubs, I may bring the loader near the greenhouse and put the 12 shrubs into the bucket and then bring it down into their car.
Oh.
When I read this, you know,
No,
and...
I'm trying to
and
not
Mr.
draw these kinds of distinctions any longer.
I would assume that it was for the 1146 Randolph
So what you're
Avenue.
saying is, in your retail operation, you move stock with a heavy machine?
Heavy machine being either a forklift
Understood.
or, yeah,
As defined here.
yeah.
That's something we'll have to talk about. Okay. 1126, you do with that?
Correct.
Okay.
We had the most discussion at our end on number 10, where we see a limitation of 125 cubic yards of mulch. And I think 125 cubic yards of mulch was a limitation in an earlier permit.
It was. Mr. Lumbum's been talking about it
Yeah.
for 3 hearings.
Yeah, and then there was relief from it, and I think the reason there was relief for it on a later but past hearing was that the 125 wasn't a practical number. The trucks bring in 70 to 80 cubic yards.
Yeah.
It would be impossible to get them to bring in a lesser number, and at least financially complicated to get any lesser number. So that, you know, if 2 truckloads already exceeds the 125, we'd have no problem with the 2 truckloads, but you're already probably dealing with 140 cubic yards, and you've got some potential problem there. They won't deliver. As a matter of fact, according to Jason, they simply won't deliver partial loads. He has to take the loads.
What is the capacity of the bins that you've got on your drawing? That's really the issue, isn't it? It wasn't on there.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't on there. You know, there's testimony before from I've forgotten his name, right directly behind you.
Jack Carpenter.
Jack wanted the mulch to not go higher than the top of the bin. So what we're trying to do is match the top of the bin with the capacity. And I just don't know how many yards you can fit in there.
You know that, Jason?
I would say we could fit, keeping it at the level, I mean, that I don't know if, you know, without keeping it to the level of the rear barrier, if you will, you could fit 100 yards in there.
How many do you want, how many are you suggesting that needs to be in 10?
Realistically, if we have 3 types of mulch and the average is 70 yards because it's 60 to 80, you know, the realistic number would be 210.
When they relieved that limitation in the past, there was no sprinkler system, I'd like to add, and that will make a whole lot of difference here.
But what's the capacity? How many can fit? You know?
Right, how high would 210 go? Is it gonna spill over? I mean, that's really a concern, I think.
Right, it's not gonna, it won't spill over. It would probably be 12 feet high, the pile. I think when you guys did the site visit, it was about 10 feet, 12 feet high,
And the bins
Not-
the bins go to,
6 feet.
at the back end?
At the back, 2 bins go 4 feet, and 1 bin goes 6 feet. And it was only because I needed some of the cinder blocks to use elsewhere that we took those off the back.
Is that a possibility, adding cinder blocks and raising the...
We could, and we suggested it. Mr. Prondak put it in in his memo, not allowing that.
But where you're proposing to add in the 13 green giant arborvitaes, and then additional fencing beyond the arborvitaes.
There's definitely room for it.
And I know that that's elevated, so between the arborvitae and the fencing, you know, the mulch, the height of the mulch is gonna exceed the bins, but it's not gonna exceed the
Exactly.
arborvitae and the fencing.
Right.
So you're suggesting that 10 instead of 125, should be 210
Yes.
during April, May, and June. Then you have July. You see how this works, right?
Yes, yep.
This is based on the testimony that your peak seasons were the spring, and you have a declining need. And Mr. Martinelli has said that the spring is the worst, most deliveries in the spring, and that if the capacity is lower, then the situation is better, is what we've heard. So, are the other capacities work for you?
The only problem with the other capacities, the 50 and the 10, is that he's concerned, what if I have left over from the earlier period?
Ah,
And then what do I do with it? You know?
yeah, okay. Do we have a suggestion for that?
We certainly don't mind. He does a great deal with the town as it is, and that might be a practical solution to some extent. But, you know, once he reaches his end of his busy season, if he has left over more than the new capacity allows,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. Are those the extent of the comments on 10?
Anything else? I think that was it, Jason, right?
That was it.
On number, if we can go on to number 11, we discussed last time that moving the piles of moss 20 feet would block access to the barn, and I think the board was sympathetic to needing that access. So the 20 feet might not be a workable number, no, probably a necessary number, given the amount of screenage we now have with fencing and arborvitaes, et cetera.
What is the setback, would you suggest? Is there any setback? I think 20 also came from Jack.
There's, right now, there's about 7 to 8 feet from the property line to the tip of the bin, and then the mulch starts.
And you're saying because you've put the arborvitae in, the setback need not be so extensive?
Right.
I think with the fencing and the arborvitae's and the irrigation, plus there's 48 and a half feet from the rear of, from the fence or the giant screening to the existing arborvitae's. You know, that would help. That 49 feet also helps.
Where's the 49 feet?
From that corner, right?
On 1146?
I don't know, I'm lost. Maybe.
I think
Right behind the proposed
Oh,
13.
oh. Yeah, but that's not your property.
It's not.
You're just suggesting that that's a buffer because his property is back, because this is where he puts his grass and...
Yeah, it's a garden spot.
Composting, yes.
Composting.
Right.
The reference to 8 feet, I guess that's actually not in number 10. We were wondering, he has no problem with the 8-foot fence, we've not argued it, we're just concerned a little bit about the aesthetics of it. 8 foot on a stockade is somewhat higher than you usually see in a residential area, and we're wondering if the homeowner even wants 8 feet. I mean,
Yeah.
I was wondering the same thing.
So you said 6, right?
yeah,
6 is what you've already put in.
right.
6 is there, that was existing. When we did the plan, it was suggested as 8. We made a mistake there, should have been 6 because it was already existing.
But you've corrected that.
We'd have, yes.
Okay.
That 8-foot reference actually goes over to item 15 on the
I see it.
proposal.
Yeah.
We had no issues with 12, 13, or 14,
Okay.
and we've just discussed the issue that we had with number 15.
Yeah.
Article 16 and 17. Now, obviously, 17 continues to be a little bit tough for Jason, who felt after all we've gone through, if he could get longer than a 4-year extension here, he was hoping to ask for a 10-year permit.
Right. Go ahead.
The reason I'm asking is, if something was wrong within the 10 years, as it was in 2014. A phone call to the building commissioner could rectify that and bring me back in front of the board. So I just thought, you know, since we went through this, I believe we're 6 years into the 10-year permit, just suggesting maybe if we could start
Yeah,
2014 for 10 years further.
okay,
Only suggestion. I mean,
understood. Can we back up a second on paragraph 16? Mrs. Martinelli has asked the board what small quantities are. I wondered whether you had a suggestion, or Mr. Prondak might have a suggestion. The idea was that small quantities of landscaping materials were not part of the commercial operation because they were furthering the local business, use by local businesses, which is what we heard at this hearing. But I don't know what small quantities are. We saw the small quantities, and they did appear to be small. But, I don't know.
One gauge that I've come back to using are things that are not stored in bulk quantity. Small, if Jason had a pallet of, 30 or 40 bags of, 30, 40, 25 pound bags of fertilizer to be sold at a retail level, that would be a typical small quantity in my mind. But if he had, 250 pound cases of fertilizer for sale at a retail level, then I would see that as exceeding that.
Okay.
So it is judgmental. Can be hard to.
Well, it's your judgment,
I understood.
okay? Which is why you're still here. We're going to let you leave.
Why we're here to begin with.
I understand. All right, is your feedback to the board on this, does that conclude your?
It does.
Okay. Can I ask if there's anyone in the audience who wants to comment on what they've heard? Mr. Martinelli.
It seems, this whole thing was driven by the mulch. And 200 yards doesn't really address any kind of relief. I think we're dealing with numbers that right around all along. And it's a huge quantity. 200 yards of mulch is a lot. And we're back to square one. This is why it all started. The deliveries and the dust and the noise and the trucks. And I don't see any relief coming with that number. I mean, it's a pretty big number.
What about the water, the sprinkling of it should knock down the dust, and the larger quantities
Yeah, but when it
should...
comes to- the biggest dust is when...
Let me finish. If the sprinkling would knock down the dust, and the larger quantities would reduce the number of deliveries, is that right? So would there be fewer trucks making deliveries if we were able to store more on site? I mean, I'm trying to come up with something.
Yeah, it's the material
I just wanna make sure
going
we
out.
get-
It's
yeah.
the deliveries are gonna come, and a majority of the dust comes from the delivery. As the trucks are pushing it out, these trailers, they call them walk on the floor, the stuff keeps pushing out the back, and as it does, this is where the cloud of most of the stuff come. I mean, some does come from the loading of it, and of course it'd be reduced with the sprinklers. The quantity of the trucks going out, that's what it is. The machines running and loading, and that's what kind of drove this whole, our concerns. Besides that and the fire risks and all that, none of that's going to change, with 200 yards. It's,
Whether he stores 60 cubic feet or 210, if his sales stay the same, then the loading is the same. Is that right?
Correct.
I mean, I'm just trying to get down to I want to make sure that whatever we do is going to make a difference. But if he stores smaller quantities, but the sales continue to be at the same level, then
Well, it
if
won't because
the loading is still going to be the same amount of loading, isn't it?
well, you were restricting the amount of deliveries also. So it wouldn't be the same. I mean, if you can only get so many deliveries a week, at a certain amount, it'll reduce and give us some relief. If it's back up there, and...
It's got 2 a week.
Yeah.
It's only 2 a week.
And we have no issue with that.
Jason, I've never seen these things deliver. I can imagine what they're like, but if Mr. Martinelli is saying there's dust that occurs on the delivery as the machine is pushing the mulch out the back, sometimes the construction sites, I know that they hose down stuff.
We can turn the irrigation
Would it
on.
be possible, well, either that or somebody with us to spray it as it's coming out
Absolutely,
to keep the dust down? I mean, if that's,
absolutely.
that, you have the capability probably to do that?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if that would help, but I'm just trying to figure something out here.
We're not going to know until it happens, and you certainly would be.
Yeah.
We have a situation where your landscaping vehicles and the business involved in that comes across the street to load up the mulch and off to your home deliveries and so forth. Is that a typical situation?
When we deliver mulch to homeowners,
Well, no.
We-
Yeah, but also as part of your, we have a specific provision in here barring any commercial landscaping operation. Do we, maybe we just didn't address this, but do you take your landscaping trucks that are generally across the street at the Pepsi, back them in, load them with mulch, and off you go to your commercial landscaping?
once in a while, yes.
Businesses? I mean, is that,
Doesn't really matter to me where the trucks are going,
Well,
it's
you're-
just
you-
the
you're
sheer
making-
volume of them.
You're making the point that it's not so much, correct me if I'm wrong, not so much the delivery of the tractor-trailer loads full of the trucks, but it's then the customers coming in and Jason's landscaping
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, I
trucks
mean,
loading up
collectively,
and
all of it is
going off.
Collectively, it's all, it's the deliveries, it's the loading, and it's the volume. Like I said, it is, the last few months, it's perfect. There's no, the whole place changes, but for those 3 months, it's very intense, it's very aggressive, and it's tough. That's what drove this whole meeting. As far as, it's simple math for the size of the bins too, how high, because we're dealing with cubic yards, so we could come up with a real way of judging what's in them, which would be hard enough for Joe as it is, but 210 yards of mulch is a lot of mulch, like you say, going back in the permits, it started out as bagged mulch, and then it turned into a little bit more, then it's 120, and then it's out of sight, and it's tough. And I think that's a pretty high number, I had one other question too about it. I didn't see the site plan. Is there parking shown on it, or how many parking spaces? And I do think that maybe not the bin in the left would have to come out as far, but it will give some relief. I think there can be a setback off the property. The 2 bins that are on the right-hand side, it's just a driveway in front. But, we're just looking for some relief. And all of those, I thought the thing was drafted well, there were some good ideas there. I thought the limits were reasonable. And, maybe if that works, we see how this goes. He comes back and says, hey, the operation's going better, maybe we could up it by 100 yards. I think we should at least get a chance to get some relief from this and see how it goes. I think it's pretty reasonable to ask. We're not saying, ideally there'd be no mulch. That would be great. Have it off-site somewhere. We never, we had asked them to explore going off-site with it. I never heard anything come back that he didn't when he explored. If there were any options, it was always staying here. So we never heard about potential of moving it all off-site, but to just, how much are we really reducing if we're going to 200 yards? What are we going to say was there? 300 yards? 400 yards?
It's not a matter of reduction, it's a matter of the spray, the irrigation system, the willingness to spray as it comes in, and I think in all likelihood that's going to give substantial relief.
dust, maybe.
Well, I do think that, you know, the limit on the mulch, I guess I would have to agree with Mr. Martinelli that you know, as building inspector, I have received this complaint, and another thing, Mr. Martinelli, and I do find the complaint credible. The watering, certainly, if you're diligent about the watering, you can certainly control the dust. But, you know, I do believe a large part of the complaint and the nuisance here is the consistency of the roads during the peak season of mulch. And that watering doesn't do any good to alleviate the loader, the backup beepers, the slamming of the tailgates, the banging of the loader up against the side of the truck. I mean, it is an intense, I am familiar with loading operations. I drove a truck for a number of years before I could do this. Probably should have stayed a couple hours. I do agree that it is an intense use, and in my opinion, I think there's a good possibility that, you know, lower that to a number, and then review it in a year or after a season and see how that goes.
All right, let's take stock of where we are. Is there anybody else who wants to comment on the application testimony that we heard today? Okay, I hear none. Let me read into the record what Mr. Prondak has asked for. So if people are familiar with the 3 or 4 page special permit to which we will attach our findings, which will largely mirror what has been found by this board before in terms of the general and overall character of this area and the number of similarly situated properties and the traffic on Randolph Avenue, et cetera. Mr. Prondak has made a comment that asking for refrigerating. Oh, okay, so we're going to close the testimony and we're going to deliberate here. And I'd like to, we're going to open up the dialogue for people to add, and now we'll have a discussion. That's okay. All right. So Mr. Prondak has asked on number 1 that no refrigerating trucks be brought onto the property with the proviso that, and the applicant has stated that the trucks should be permitted to be brought on the property Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 8 to 7 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of Thanksgiving week, from 8 to 7 p.m. and that thereafter they be located a distance of more than 300 feet from the property. Does that sound like a reasonable addition to this? Is that accurate, Mr. Prondak?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Okay. Let me remind people, the reason that we're here is that Mr. Prondak has asked for an interpretation of the 2008 special permit, and that this is not a de novo review and a reapplication of the conditions of the special permit. It really is intended to clarify, remove, eliminate, repeal, or invalidate provisions of this permit, and perhaps the permit at all. I think that's important to just say. So, and I'm going to raise that again at another point. On number 7, so we've heard from the applicant. On number 7, Mr. Prondak has asked, and the applicant has also asked for a change in this provision. The applicant has asked that the portion that stock may be moved by Bobcat or heavy machinery at 1126, which is the main property. And Mr. Prondak has asked that you permit the loading and offloading of trucks by forklift or Bobcat, because it will be difficult to offload larger trees and shrubs by hand. I'm assuming that the applicant is fine with that, and I think that's a good point that the commissioner has raised. So I find that to be reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Number 9, Mr. Prondak has asked that the deliveries, which are limited to 2 deliveries of mulch during any week, I had written Sunday through Saturday. Mr. Prondak has asked for that to be Monday through Saturday so that there will be no Sunday deliveries. And then no single delivery in excess of 80 yards of mulch may be made. We've also changed the deliveries of trucks to not before 10:30 or after 4. It used to be 9. And I changed it to 10:30 with the traffic on Randolph Avenue during the commuting hours, which everybody knows I care about. 11 does already specify that the concrete barriers may not be made any higher. Mr. Prondick has asked for that. Mr. Prondick has also asked on 13, it says that the applicant shall not use chainsaws on the premises after 9. Mr. Prondick has asked that we limit that to 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., except during the Christmas tree season where 9 p.m. can be permitted, which would permit you to use chainsaws after 5 during the Christmas season. And then lastly, Mr. Prondick has asked that the town of we add a provision, the town of Milton's representatives have the right to enter the property during any of Eagle Farm's regular business hours for the purpose of determining compliance with the special permit. I think you would ask for that before. I think each of these conditions is reasonable, and I suggest that we add them to the draft of this document. Do you have any comments on that?
No, I think that's fine.
Steve?
No, I think
All
it's
right.
fine.
So I think where that leaves us is that there are a couple of issues. The first is on the fencing, and whether it be 6 feet or 8 feet. I had 8 feet in because that's what we heard. And my own sense is I'd rather have a uniform fence than a non-uniform fence. But I'm also not a member of the fence police department. I wonder if the building commissioner has a preference. My own view is, given the extent of the additional buffers that have been added, frankly, not at the request of the board necessarily, but I do think, assisted with this application, I think the 6 feet would be okay, but I'd like to hear from you.
I actually do prefer the 8-foot fence.
You prefer 8?
I think just even on a stockade fence alone, that in itself would add some sound barrier, or if we even go to a fence specifically designed for sound attenuation, at 8 feet is appropriate.
Well, it does say that, the portions of the perimeter fencing along the, it says certain portions of the perimeter fencing as shown on the site plan shall have sound attenuating, certain provisions.
Right.
Which
If
I think
you
you would
look
ask.
at, there's a lot of fencing that you see along stockade type fencing, whether it be vinyl or wood. You see it a lot along Blue Hill Avenue and along Randolph Avenue. And the difference between 6 foot and 2 foot is from a aesthetics point of view is not all that different. And I think the people that live on those main roads, they tend to go with the 8-foot fences, Canton Avenue as well, because it does provide that extra level of privacy. And you were talking about separating the business use property from the residential property. The 8-foot does give a little bit of extra protection for the residents.
Do we know if the homeowner even wants 8 feet there? That's the privacy that we'd be protecting, and I haven't heard that.
Members of the board? We didn't hear it either, but at least I
could go either way, but I think Mr. Prondack's convincing me that 8 feet, given, would be on the site plan between the corner of the lot where the mulch is. Given the obvious testimony about the problem the mulch has created, I mean, I tend to, maybe the extra 2 feet I think would be helpful. I mean, I was wondering if it would look weird having an 8-foot fence, but if it's not, if in your experience it's all right, I mean, I could support 8.
We have no problem doing 8. I just thought because of the elevation,
Yeah, I know.
it will look
It's 6 feet now, right?
6 feet.
Because I did notice when I was whizzing by at,
And
at 5
And
something.
it pops out at you at the 6 feet.
Yeah.
And we'll be more than willing to put 8 feet. I'm concerned aesthetically.
So, let me just clarify where this fence is. The fence is going to be located, which is the interior lot line for you, as shown on this drawing. Are you also putting, do you also have fence along each boundary of the premises that abuts a residential property? It shows existing fencing, but is that existing stock fencing?
That is existing stock fencing, 6 feet.
So what are we saying here? Saying that you have to maintain the fencing as existing. You have to install an 8-foot fence where the mulch is. Is that what we're saying?
I think we're saying that coming off the 6-foot fence, we're going to 8 foot.
In the area of the mulch.
Correct.
Mr. Prodek, are you following that?
I just want to be clear on like this plan.
This is where the proposed 8 is.
Yeah, I believe that's appropriate.
8 along the, where the mulch is.
Then maybe 6 along the Martinelli lot line, I believe. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, so
And then-
if you've got the 8-foot here, that, you know, there's no, it eliminates the need to make that 8-foot, and that could stay at a standard 6-foot.
Existing 6 here.
But this fence would be doing most of the work of screening and
Right.
sound.
Is there a wooden fence along the entire perimeter of the property where it abuts a residential neighbor now, except in the back? The back of 1146?
Yes, there is. Except the rear of 1146, that's correct.
But you're going to install a fence there,
Yes,
which Mr. Prodek has suggested be 6 feet.
correct.
So if it said that you would either install or maintain,